Hi, it's Lexie Carducci here with you with another one of my home hints. So this is where I go through kind of little tips and tricks and things, or things that have been announced in the press, or anything that's trending to do with the property market. Now, of course, we had the budget that was set on Wednesday, didn't we? So there are a couple of little things in there about the property industry. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. If you haven't seen it on my channel yet, don't worry, it's coming up right now. I was just letting the dust settle, you know. So a quick little intro about myself, if you haven't watched one of my videos before, or if you haven't followed my page before, I'm Lexie Carducci. I am a property finder, so think Kirsty and Phil on location, location, location. I'm a relocation agent, I'm a developer, and I'm an investment landlord. I'm based in London, and yeah, my whole life pretty much revolves around property. So let's have a look at the property related items that were announced in the budget on Wednesday. First being the stamp duty land tax holiday has been extended, and the second being 95% mortgages. So I'm going to go through both of those in a little bit more detail. But first of all, why have the government announced these things, and what are they looking for? What are the ideal outcomes? So, of course, first of all, to stimulate the housing market and keep it going. About 15% of the UK's GDP, which is the gross domestic product, is the property industry and housing market, which is massive. So the housing market and prices is kind of a commonly used indicator of the economy. So if that is doing well, then of course the economy is doing well. The stamp duty holiday extension allows the current bottleneck that's there at the minute to ease and get those transactions completed. So according to Paragon, their mortgage lender, sales worth 1.5 billion are in a chain where someone is dependent on completion by the original date of March the 31st, which is when it was originally set. People then jumped on this last year when it was announced that they would be doing the 0% stamp duty on properties up to £500,000 because it meant that they actually would save a maximum of £15,000. So then the 5% deposit and the 95% loan to value mortgage is to encourage people to buy, I guess, and particularly those with lower deposits. So both of those things I've just mentioned, the stamp duty and the 5% deposit, 95% mortgage, both of those things are basically encouraging people to buy property, which will then of course have a knock-on effect everywhere else. I mean, how many roles are connected to the property industry? Not just estate agencies, you've got solicitors, you've got mortgage providers, mortgage brokers, inventory companies, removal companies, DIY and home stores, and so much more that comes with that as well. So first up, let's look at the stamp duty land tax holiday extension and what this is and what it means. So stamp duty is a land tax that is paid on a property in addition to all the other things you pay. And it can be a huge extra factor when buying as another big chunk of money. It's a huge chunk of money that is needed. So previously it was 0% up to 125,000 and then 2% on the next portion of 125,000 to 250,000. Then it was 5% on the next portion of 250,000 to 925,000, and then from then on it just kind of continued up and up. But I'll just focus on those bits for the minute, just to give you a little bit of background. Because of the pandemic, it was dropped to 0% up to £500,000, meaning that people could save up to £15,000. So this was due to end in March, on March 31st, but has now been extended by 3 months until the end of June. Then from the end of June to the end of September, it will be 0% on properties up to 250,000, which is kind of easing back into what it was and ensures that the people who originally needed to meet the March deadline can get their deals through and ease that bottleneck. And also it continues to help others save too as well. And not creating that kind of straight cut off cliff edge that everyone was fearing. Then from October, it will return to 0% up to 125,000 where it was previously. So giving people a little bit more time. So my top tip here is to act now, because as we all know, it can take so long to complete on a property, can't it? So maybe something around 3 months. And also if you've got something to sell, to be able to buy the next property, then of course you've got to take into account the time that it takes to sell that property as well. So that's kind of looking at the stamp duty, land tax, and where we are with all of that. So the second thing that was announced, like I said earlier, is the 95% loan to value mortgages with the 5% deposit. So this is a mortgage where you put in a 5% deposit and you borrow the remaining 95%. So if we look at the average first-time buyer's price in the UK, it's just over £200,000 for a first-time buyer's property. You'd need around a £10,000 deposit with this new 95% mortgage scheme. And then in London for first-time buyers, the average price is around £489,000, meaning that you would need a £25,000 deposit, or roughly thereabouts. So the 95% mortgages, they aren't a brand new thing. They were around, but companies stopped offering them. And some even stopped offering their 90% loan to value mortgages during the pandemic for various different reasons. One being that there was a large backlog of applications, as well as, of course, the economic forecast. So a couple of different reasons there. But what's different about it this time around is that these mortgages will be guaranteed by the government, which removes the risks from the loans from the lenders. So it's kind of why you see a lot of these big companies are now offering these 95% mortgages again. So the lenders so far that have been confirmed are Lloyds, NatWest, Santander, Barclays and HSBC. And then they'll be offering it from next month, and then other lenders such as Virgin Money are set to follow as well. So that brings me to, what are the rules of this 95% mortgage and how does this differ from Help to Buy? You may have known about the Help to Buy scheme. So just to go through that very quickly, with the Help to Buy scheme, you pay a 5% deposit as well, but the government puts in a 20% equity loan, meaning that you are left taking out a 75% mortgage, so often giving you the benefit of a lower interest rate because you're obviously borrowing less money compared to a 95% mortgage. So Help to Buy is only available on new builds, which in turn, of course, caused like a little bit of a bubble in the market and meant that you were paying a huge premium, or often paying a huge premium, on those modern new build developments. However, the 95% mortgages are available for all buyers, not just first-time buyers, which is a huge thing, and also not just on new build properties. It's on any property costing up to £600,000 residential property. According to Rightmove, that accounts for 86% of homes that are currently on the market for sale in the UK. So, you know, being not just for first-time buyers means that it will actually encourage others to move up the ladder too. So it has a bit of a knock-on effect on everyone. Like I said earlier, it's basically them just encouraging people to buy property. The mortgage rate of a 95% mortgage would be fixed for at least 5 years, whereas with the Help to Buy scheme, that 20% government equity loan that I mentioned is free for the first 5 years, but then it rises to 1.75%, and then it increases on top of that in line with RPI every year until it is repaid. So as the equity loan was actually based on a percentage of the property value and not the cash sum of the loan to you, therefore if your home's value increases, so does what you pay back on that equity loan. But with a 95% mortgage, you borrow a set sum, so as you pay off that mortgage, your share of the equity will grow as long as the value of your home stays the same or rises. So what are the downsides? That's what you're here for, right? Firstly, you are borrowing more in a 95% mortgage than, say, a 75% mortgage or even a 90% mortgage, and you will still need to meet that affordability check, which is not thought will be adjusted. They're not going to be helping with adjusting that. So mortgage lenders offer loans based on about 4.5 or 5 times the buyer's salary, which can be combined, of course, if you are buying with someone else. So let's just look at that average that I mentioned earlier for first-time buyers, the price of a first-time buying home on average in London, for example, which is just over 489,000, you need to be earning a whopping £103,000 to qualify for that 95% mortgage. Now, just to go through that calculation, because I feel like I learn by examples. It's like when I was doing, you know, when you do maths at school and someone could be like, x plus y is this, and you're like, well, that's great, but let's just do an example. so I can go through how I actually work that out so it makes sense. The calculation of that equation I just did was 95% of that average purchase price in London, which is just over 489,000. So 95% of that, which is what you would be borrowing, is around about 464,000, which is the price that you would be borrowing, then divided by 4.5, which is how much they obviously want you to be earning, and that equates to £103,000. So you still have to be earning pretty high, particularly in London, if we look at those prices. So secondly, with the uncertainty in the housing market, looking ahead in the coming years, there is concern, of course, that these low deposit 5% mortgage buyers could actually fall into negative equity. So for example, the property prices fall and your house actually goes down in value. Yeah, that's not good. That means you could owe more money than your house is actually worth. Whereas actually if you paid a larger deposit, so if you took out a 90% mortgage, you paid a 10% deposit, or if you took out a 75% mortgage, you paid a 25% deposit, or whatever's higher than that, you could have avoided that because you've actually put down more money and you have less to repay. Being in negative equity is very dangerous because it makes it so difficult and pretty much impossible to sell or remortgage your property. So if you compare that to the stocks, so if anyone out there is a trader, it's like when the stocks are falling and you're just watching it going down, 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 and you need to hold off. You don't want to sell it at that point. You need to hold off and wait for it to go back up again. Hopefully, that's the plan. And remember that interest rates and other details are actually still yet to be revealed. So that might be a whole nother video, a whole nother thing to get your head around. So just wrapping up on this video, and my advice would always be, property is it's not one size fits all. There will always be different strategies and different mortgages that work and benefit different people. So again, on that note, I would always recommend getting a mortgage broker. They will help you navigate the mortgage minefield, because it is a pretty big minefield. It's very confusing, and they will find you the most suitable product for your situation. So there you go. Hope that made sense. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, post your thoughts below, give me a little follow for more property related content as well, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Ciao.